Hello and welcome to Adventist Mission. I'm here in Mexico, right on the edge of the Caribbean. And just a few short miles across these waters is the island nation of Cuba. In many ways, this country has been isolated from the rest of the world for many years. And our Seventh-day Adventist family in Cuba has been isolated from the rest of the Adventist Church family. But I want to tell you that encouraging things are happening in Cuba, and later in this program we will be visiting Cuba and we'll be seeing a dynamic, growing Adventist church, and we thank God for what is happening in this country. It's Sunday morning here in downtown Havana, and as I've walked the streets and taken a few photos and talked with some of the people through the limitations of language, it's like a different world to me. But I see these buildings and they're decaying, they haven't had the economic resources to keep them maintained. You know, you tend to get a little philosophical and you think about the goal of the restoration of God's image in humanity, and that's a goal that we are part of as we seek to fulfill the mission Jesus has given us to tell people about His love. And just further up this street, as we're just walking along, we came across this door and it had the Adventist Church logo on it. And I spoke to our translator and he explained that this was a house church. They call them houses of light here. So right here in the center of Havana, we have a group of Seventh-day Adventist believers who are sharing God's love. With the prohibition of new church buildings, house churches have sprung up all over Cuba as the church has grown. Local leaders estimate that the church has more than doubled and almost tripled since restrictions were loosened close to 15 years ago. These house churches also serve as a witnessing tool to the community. Lay members get to know those people living near the house of worship, inviting them to come and learn about a loving God who wants to fill the void that they have in their lives. The house churches are lay-led, and the members that share their faith do so with a passion that's contagious to those who listen. The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Cuba is growing. It's alive. It's making a difference in its community. It's reaching out. The church in Cuba has only one wish, only one goal. Thank you so much for your prayerful support of the mission of this church. Thanks for doing your part in helping tell the world about Jesus. We're here in Havana, Cuba. This country, of course, is only a few miles off the southern coast of Florida in the United States, but in many ways it's a world away. But we have a Seventh-day Adventist church here that is alive and it's growing. And my guest today is Pastor Israel Leto. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
Pastor Leto is the president of the Inter-American Division of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Pastor Leto, can you please describe for us the church here in Cuba? What's it like? Well,
the church in Cuba is a very normal church. Unlike what some people believe outside of Cuba, Cuba has several issues and things that we are so satisfied with. Religious freedom in Cuba is restricted to you can do whatever you want within the walls of your churches, as long as it is not a crime. So we believe that with those limitations, we are free. We can go around, we can distribute literature, we can talk to people, we can give Bible studies. Of course, if you want to hold a public evangelism, for instance, you need to get special authorization. But then Cuba is not the only place in the world where it is like this, to start with. The church in Cuba is well organized. We have a union here, 3 local fields, very vibrant. When you compare Cuba with the rest of the world, it is a very poor church because of the economy of the country. But when you look at the church itself inside, oh, they have great needs because most of the materials they need have to be bought in hard currency, and they don't have it. If you consider that the average salary of a physician here is $20 a month, so you can imagine the difficulty they have to come up with hard currency to do the work they need to do. But we are supporting of them. The rest of the unions are very supportive of Cuba, and we certainly hope that the world will understand our church in Cuba and don't think because it's so developed that they don't have needs. Right. As I mentioned, they have 3 local fields, nearly 30,000 members here in Cuba, and very, very God-loving people. And they want to be part of this church, even though isolated in a sense, but they are as Adventist as you can find. And this is how we perceive our church here in Cuba.
Wonderful. Now, Pastor, Maranatha Volunteers International has played an important role here in recent years. Can you describe that for us?
Oh yes. Do you have the whole day for me to talk about Maranatha?
Not quite.
Maranatha has changed things in Cuba, not only for the church, but for everybody. Because it was the first organization that came in and pushed and pushed and pushed against closed doors to get things done that were never done before in the sense, in this period of history of Cuba. And Maranatha has rebuilt scores of our churches. They have built so many churches. We can never express enough what Maranatha has done for the church, not only in matters of the physical infrastructure of the church, but the spirit Maranatha brought in, employing people, open doors for evangelism, bringing in teams to do evangelism, and this has opened the door for many other people, even non-Adventists, because it is due to Maranatha's pushing that doors were open. And because this government is this kind of government, everything equal for everybody, we don't get it alone for us. They also do it for others. And Maranatha has and is a blessing because they're still active in Cuba, still maintaining the work, still building churches here in Cuba.
Pastor Lader, thanks for joining us today.
Certainly.
And viewers at home, please remember the church here in Cuba. Many wonderful things happening, but obviously many challenges as well. And thank you for your prayerful support of the Inter-American Division and Cuba specifically.
Which Asian country's capital is called the Venice of the East? China, South Korea, Thailand, or Vietnam? The correct answer is Thailand. Bangkok, the capital of Thailand, used to be crisscrossed by canals and called the Venice of the East. The canals were used for transport and for floating markets. Today, most of the canals of Bangkok have been converted into streets, but Bangkok still shares one similarity with its Italian counterpart. It, too, is sinking. Studies estimate that Bangkok is sinking more than 12 centimeters or 4 inches a year in the worst areas.
The first time I went to Cuba was 12 years ago. And even at that time, there had been a gospel revolution in Cuba. The amazing changes that had happened in the Seventh-day Adventist Church due to Global Mission and Maranatha Volunteers International. The way that Maranatha took this project, took Cuba into their hearts, and have made such a difference there. My guest today is Dan Weber, the video producer for the Adventist Mission DVD. Dan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Gary.
You and I were down there in Cuba late last year.
Yeah.
And we were producing some video segments, some of which we're seeing in this program. But you know, when you go to a place such as Cuba, which has had so many challenges, so many hardships, and you go into a worship service on Sabbath morning and you see the people, what was that experience like for you?
I think the one word I could think of was energy.
Mm-hmm.
You just feel this energy from the people there. And it's not because we showed up with cameras.
Right.
It's just, you go into a little tiny church unannounced, and you just feel like there's a real presence there, that there's life there, that these people have something so strong to believe in. And part of it is because the environment that they're living in. But I think one thing we need to add to is that there's a stigma based with Cuba
Yes.
that probably isn't that accurate.
Yeah. We have certain stereotypes about.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, the small house churches, we visited some of them.
Mm-hmm.
Share with our viewers what that experience was like.
Well, basically, the couple that we went to, they're small houses, and oftentimes people end up meeting outside on the front porch at night, and they'll put a tarp up, and you see these darkened streets, but you see this one house that has these lights on the porch, and you go there, and there's 50 or 60 people just having a Bible study or a meeting, and it was, and they're singing and having a good time, and it was exciting to see.
Yeah.
It was really great.
I'll never forget that taxi driver that we met.
Yeah, Benicio, yeah.
He became an Adventist, and just the way that he just went to his neighbours, knocked on their doors and said, there's some evangelistic meetings, you should be there.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any transport, I'm a taxi driver,
Right.
I can take you.
And he started running a small group in his little house, or a little room that he lives in, basically,
Yes.
before he was even baptized.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he was so happy with the message he'd found.
Yeah.
It was great.
And as a taxi driver, he has to do, 20-hour days or whatever, but very, very long days. And for him to take time out from that, so many of us use the excuse that we're busy.
Yeah.
Well, compared to his busyness, and yet he took time out for that.
Yeah,
Now,
it was great.
Now,
Very touching.
one of the highlights we had too, at least for me, was when we went onto the other side of the island from Havana and went to that church opening. Now, I say church opening, but it wasn't really a church.
Well, they call it a house of light.
Right.
And technically it's a house, but that's the biggest living room I've ever seen.
It's kind of like the pastor's house with a huge living room that seats I don't know how many people.
Close to 500 people.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of people. Now, when we arrived there, we were like 3 or 4 hours late. I think it was night. The rain was pouring. It had been flooding, etc., etc. So we were with the Maranatha leaders, and we were half expecting that, okay, we'd have a dedication and opening, but we'd be the only ones there. But it was quite different.
Yeah, there was several hundred people at least outside waiting. And we had to work our way through the crowd just to get up to the front, and then to cut the ribbon and go inside. And then as soon as the doors open, people just flowed right in, and the place filled up so quick, and it was great.
Now, this is a location right next to the infamous Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
But it's an area where the revolution started in Cuba.
Yeah, it's the strongest communist part of the island, I guess you could say.
And so it's been many, many years that we've been trying to get permission to do something here. So this was a breakthrough.
Yeah, it was a big deal that the back and forth they had to go with to the government to get permission to do this, and they finally got it, and it's great. But the church members there, the church leaders there in Cuba told me that the strongest Adventists come from that part of the country.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just wonderful people. And every time I go to Cuba, I have a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Now, on the plane flight over there, we spoke with a retired Seventh-day Adventist pastor who had been one of the leaders with Castro and with...
He was one of Castro's advisors.
Yeah. And that plane ride was too short because we didn't get the full story. But the experience of his changed life from being part of that to becoming an Adventist pastor was quite a story.
It was just incredible.
Yeah. Well, in our next segment, Dan, we're going to go to that House of Light. We're going to let our viewers at home experience what it was like to go to this place, to see the people, to see their joy, to see the wonder for them to have a place where they could finally worship together. On the eastern side of Cuba, near Guantanamo Bay, is the small town of Boyariba. A crowd of more than 500 people has gathered for the dedication of a new House of Light. A steady rain falls on the crowd as they wait for the service to begin. The people try to stay dry as the ribbon is cut and the doors to the new building are pushed open. The pews fill up quickly as people rush to find seats before the building overflows. The Adventist Church in Cuba isn't allowed to build new church buildings, but they are allowed to renovate old ones. It just so happens that this pastor's house has a living room that will hold more than 250 people each Sabbath. The church members sing songs of praise and gratitude as they show their thanks for their new house of worship. At the service are representatives from Maranatha Volunteers International, a lay member organization that's been responsible for rebuilding this house of light. Maranatha's worked in Cuba for more than 15 years, and they've worked on virtually every building that the Adventist Church in Cuba has built. Maranatha has truly caught the global mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and has helped lead the growth in this country. The evening ends with a short devotional, and then the new baptismal tank is put into service as 15 people are baptized. The rain that soaked the members as they waited for their house of light to open couldn't put out the flames of faith that burn in each of their hearts.
Hi, I'm Dan Weber, one of the video producers at the Office of Adventist Mission at the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventist. 4 times a year, I make a trip with one of these cameras, and we go out around the world, and we see the life of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we share these exciting mission stories with you here on this TV show. I want to share with you another way that you can take these mission stories and share them with your family and friends. It's called the Adventist Mission DVD. Every quarter, this DVD is sent free of charge to churches in North America. If your church isn't using it, ask your pastor or your Sabbath school superintendent if they will use it. The second way that you can get this DVD is by subscribing to it. It only costs $10 a year, and that pays for the shipping. Go to the website that you see on the screen or call the phone number that you see and subscribe, and every quarter this DVD will get sent to your house. I want to thank you for your prayers and your support of Adventist Mission through the years.
The Southern Union of the Euro-Asia Division is a complex place that includes some of the most difficult countries to work in. Church members here face some of the greatest challenges in the entire division. Despite these challenges, the leaders and members here are committed to reaching out to everyone in their local communities. They're committed to sharing the message of a God who loves and accepts all people. The town of Tokmak, along the border of Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, was the training center for Russian MiG pilots during the Cold War. Now it is a sleepy town that sits in the Chu Valley under snow-capped mountains that mark the border with Kazakhstan. Here, the Seventh-day Adventist Church has operated an elementary school for the past 10 years. The school has 7 grades and has more than 120 students, the majority of who are not Christians. On the last day of the school year, the students gather on the front steps of the school to sing and be recognized for their achievements. Proud parents watch as their children recite poems, sing songs, and thank teachers for another school year. Some students shed tears, knowing that they won't be coming back to this Christian school after graduation. For the students here have come to realize that they have something in common with their Christian teachers and staff. At the conclusion of the service, one of the local parents offers a prayer in the style of the local religion. This parent is so committed to sending his children to this school that he drives a long distance each morning to make sure that his children attend the Christian school. The church in Tokmak has a goal of growing the school to more than an elementary school. They're currently working on plans to finish a new building that will not only house elementary and middle schools, but a training center as well.
The vision behind this school is great. We would like to have a vocational training school, full-time high school with vocational training, and on this base we would like to educate our missionaries, especially from among indigenous people, and send them as tent makers all around our union to the places we would never imagine we could go and talk to people we've been praying for the last 100 years to reach.
Bishkek, the capital of Kyrgyzstan, is home to more than 900,000 people and is the cultural and economic center point of the country. Here, the church has taken several unique approaches to reaching out to the residents of this beautiful city. The church has set up what they refer to as the National Church. Each Sabbath, a service is held in a more traditional style that is more familiar to the members of the indigenous religion. This segment of the population makes up only 10% of the church and is an area of great emphasis for local church leaders. This new church attracted a lot of attention at first from local religious leaders.
The National Indigenous Church has begun in Kyrgyzstan. We had much attention from local imams, and right now we have good relationship with nearby mosques.
Another group that the church is reaching out to is the deaf community. Each Sabbath, a group of deaf church members meet in a small church building and hold services that are a sight to behold. They sing songs, study the Bible, and pray together in a service that has a real sense of fellowship. Members bring their friends and help to teach them the beliefs of a church that cares enough to provide a place for them to worship. Even though their voices can't be heard, their prayers and praise to God reach high into the heavens. The spiritual strength and commitment that they share each Sabbath should be an example for us all. In the country of Kazakhstan, the Seventh-day Adventist Church has built an evangelism and community center to serve the city of Almaty.
Этот общественный центр является большим благословением для этого мегаполиса.
This center has been a big blessing to the city of Almaty. This city does not have a big hall where we can gather all of our members. We have more than 500 members in this city.
This modern city is built on a plain at the foot of some of the most beautiful scenery in the division. Reaching the people with the gospel has been difficult at times, and one of the biggest challenges is finding places to hold evangelistic meetings.
The pastors are dreaming of a place like this where they can gather the people.
When construction on the new center is finished, it will house many needed services for the local community. One of these will be an English language school. The teachers from this school are a direct influence on their students.
And they're not only teaching language, which is of high requirement, especially now in this part of the world, but they also give lessons in their behavior, in their lifestyle, of what it means to be a Christian.
A portion of your 13th Sabbath offering this quarter will benefit the members of this union. It will also help to spread the message of hope in Jesus to the millions of people in this region who need to hear of a loving Savior. Thank you for your support of Adventist Mission, and thank you for supporting the 13th Sabbath offering. Your prayers and financial support are making a difference in people's lives around the world. To learn more about Mission, please visit AdventistMission.org.
If you'd like to see more mission stories like the ones you've seen today, you can ask for a sample copy of the Adventist Mission DVD. This DVD contains mission stories in 3 different lengths that you can watch at home or share with your church family. It's already being sent to every church in North America, Australia, New Zealand, and in many other regions. If you live outside of these areas, contact your local conference or union to find out if it's available in your area. If you live in North America and would like a sample copy of the DVD, just contact us and we'll be happy to send it to you. You can call us at 1-800-648-5824. That's 1-800-648-5824. Or you can request it online at www.adventistmission.org. The Mission DVD includes 13 Sabbath offering videos as well as mission stories from around the world. Once again, that number in North America is 1-800-648-5824, or you can visit our website and order it at www.adventistmission.org. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope you can join us next time right here on the Hope Channel.